So, after 5 months and 8 episodes, Invincible's second season just wrapped up. And it looks like people generally liked it. I'm one of them, and I want to talk a little about it today. Not because I liked it, but because of some of the more mixed responses I've seen. There are some out there, especially around the villain, or rather the finale's handling of the villain, Angstrom Levy. And I don't want to say anyone's wrong not to have loved this part of the finale, feel however you want, go nuts. But I do want to just quickly offer a little take that might change the way you're viewing this fight, this episode, and indeed this whole season. A take about who the real villain of Invincible Season 2 is. Sorry if my voice sounds off this video, by the way, I'm not super well, but yeah, let's go. Again, on paper, it's Angstrom Levy, a bloke who can portal between dimensions, who, in a horrible giant device accident, ended up fusing together with countless alternate versions of himself, uniting all their minds, all their memories into one, an unhinged composite who now has it out for Mark Grayson, Invincible, our protagonist. Now, I don't think anyone dislikes Levy. Sterling K. Brown gives a characteristically gripping performance, Levy's powers make him a solid physical foil to our hero, he has a compelling, if not totally logical motivation, but at first glance, the role he plays in this season does leave something to be desired. Watching Invincible over the past few months, one thing that was impossible to miss was how little time this season was actually giving to Levy's story, at least in comparison to that first year and its tighter focus on the Omni-Man mystery. Yes, things got set up back at the season's opening, but progressions come in dribs and drabs since then. The whole second half, before this last episode, we had, what, a brief post-credit scene and then the surprise cliffhanger lead-in? That's not a great deal of build-up for a big bad. Again, compare this to Season 1. The ever-approaching Omni-Man conflict really was the spine of those 8 episodes. It was a compelling hook for the plot, dripping with narrative irony and foreshadowing, that was less present in some episodes, but always being nudged forward, always casting a shadow. None of that really describes Levy's role in Season 2, and that's fine. Seasons can be different. Just because the way Season 1 did things worked once, that doesn't mean Invincible should have tried to replicate that focus, even putting aside questions of source material, which stories are available for the show to adapt when. Until this week, I'd been viewing this second season as a looser one, less momentum, less unified, more vibes, more widening things out, picking up those more peripheral threads from Season 1 and spending time with them alongside the long-term plotting. And I was fine with that. I figured whatever had been lost in immediate wow factor in that tighter villain focus would be made up by the foundations being laid, the characters being widened out, that this would be a season to really shine on rewatch. Having seen the finale, I don't think that picture of Season 2's an inaccurate one per se, but it has become clear a key piece of the puzzle's been missing. There was a season-long villain here, a threat the show built up each episode, but it wasn't Levy. It was Mark. Levy attacks Mark's family, yes. Mark has to struggle against him, yes. But the moment Mark gains the upper hand, the question ceases to be if he'll win the fight, but how he will instead. The problem this series has returned to time and time again is this: how much of Nolan is in Mark? Is he his father? It's a question the season premiere thrust into the foreground, both implicitly, starting out with an extended vision of a world where Invincible betrayed Earth, and explicitly.
I don't need your permission to be a superhero.
You know who else said that to me?
I'm not my dad. I'm not my dad!
That's why we'd been seeing evil Mark after evil Mark, not to set up some plot encounter, a direct, literal fight between our Invincible and theirs, but to tacitly pose this question of who Mark is, and what stands between heroism and a darker path. This season's stakes aren't even to do with Levy, not really. They're the various ravaged Earths, seen or foreseen, in worlds where Mark turns. Will ours be one of them? That is the question. The attack by Levy only happens because he's viewing Mark in these terms. The vast majority of his selves know Mark as the diligent Viltrumite son. When it happens, Debbie defends her son, saying specifically that he's not a killer.
I know the son I raised, and he is no killer.
You sure about that?
what Mark's been struggling with since Chicago, what's been built up for us, the viewer, over and over, is the presence of this darker, impulsive, violent nature within him, and the threat it poses to Mark and to the world if it goes unchecked. We've not seen much of Levy, but we've seen plenty of this. And when this all comes to a head in their fight and the way it ends, that missing, unifying thread setting up the season's real problem becomes crystal clear in retrospect. Sure, it's less plotty, more thematic than the Nolan stuff last time around, but it's there as the season's backbone all the same. We saw it with those alternate marks, we saw it implicitly in the encounters with Omni-Man and the other Viltrumites, literal dark selves and figurative ones, and we saw it in the impulses which threaten to overwhelm Mark when he's in tight spots.
I wanted to kill her for putting a hand on you. I could feel it bubbling up, the parts of me that are like my dad. I don't know who I'd become if you were hurt.
This thread is there throughout, building up to the real villain, Mark's own darker self. And that villain kinda wins. To show you what I mean here, I'd like you to think back to the end of the Levy fight, to the decisive moment where the final outcome is brought about. How did you feel? By comparison, how did Season 1's final showdown end? At that decisive moment, the pivot that sealed the outcome, the part where Mark's perseverance made Nolan fly off, in that moment, you feel relieved. This time, even though on paper Mark wins this one too, there is no relief. There's dread, horror. It feels like a loss. As with Season 1, the infliction of massive violence on a resistant body provides the site for a re-evaluation of the self, but here that body is only resilient. It isn't invincible. Levy's body prompted a re-examination as Mark's did, but not fast enough. And so, at once, Mark wins the fight against Levy, but loses the more important one, the one against himself, the one against the killer inside, the killer his own mum didn't believe existed. And look, it's not a disaster, the battle maybe, but the war against the self isn't lost here, as the rest of the episode makes clear. But what's equally clear is that this is a real blow. In terms of endings, we are talking more Empire than A New Hope. I think that might explain some of that fan consternation. Why did the handling of Levy feel off to some, feel underwhelming? Because Levy wasn't the point. Levy was simply a vehicle for the point. It is true that Levy's story happens similarly in the comic books, he doesn't really put up more of a fight there, but Season 2's done quite an interesting thing, moving around and adding in bits in order to shift this story's focus while actually changing very little. For instance, most of the events of Episode 7, the Amber stuff, Anissa's visit, and the way these things make us and Mark feel the spectral presence of that darker Mark together, these originally came a while after the Levy showdown, and it's a similar case with all the last 20-ish minutes of the finale. The choice to give the Levy confrontation this much of an aftermath wasn't really mirrored on the page. And I just think that's neat. For me, this is Invincible continuing to go above and beyond. It's the show telling us it's still able to turn stock superhero beats and tropes into something more, here into something that kind of reframes the whole season, and that this little trick remains the core of the show's identity. So the way the Levy fight climaxes so quickly, the way we're forced to sit in the aftermath of that with Mark as he grapples with what he just did and what that means, the way that is the episode's real climax, the way it turns a win into, well, not that, the way a little reordering and a little refocusing draws out this season-long spectre of Mark's dark potential, that really worked for me, just as much as any of those similarly uncomfortable script-flipping Season 1 moments did. Like I said before, I think this is a season of television that'll age incredibly gracefully, that'll look better and better as more episodes eventually follow, but now, after this finale, it's also one that delivered in the moment. Did this work for you? You'll have to let me know below. You also have to give me money on Patreon while you're down there, in exchange for exclusive videos and whatnot. It's the law. Don't look it up, it's a new one. Big thanks, as always, to everyone supporting me there or with a YouTube membership already. The names you're seeing now, especially Hanan, Daniel Goldhorn, Karen Kuhlman, Magath, Ryan Emily, Something Capitalism Bad, Thomas R, and Weirdy Beardy. And I'll see you all next time.